Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Hidden Horror. How are you guys today for a Saturday? How are you feeling? Please let me know. How are you doing? What's going on with you? So today I'm here to bring you a quick update on the mass shooting in Georgia that Colt Gray allegedly committed back last year, September of 2024. And I'm here to let you know that his dad, who was also arrested, charged with multiple accounts, um, he would like to change the location of his trial. He's probably worried that the sentiment in that area is that, you know what? You're from this community, you had some warning, the FBI is knocking, sending local police to your door, asking you, did your son say when he was in middle school that he was going to do a mass shooting? And up now and behold, fast forward in time, you guys. What does his son, Colt Gray, do? Allegedly, he commits a mass shooting with what? With the weapon that dad, Colin Gray, purchased him as a Christmas gift. He wants out of this community, out of this area. People are going to remember these specific details, right? So let's get to it. The article is coming from Fox5Atlanta.com. Is titled Father of Accused Apalachee High School Shooter Seeks Venue Change for Trial. The article is dated March 25th, 2025, and it's by Travis Moyer and Tyler Finger. The elder Gray was charged with allowing his 14-year-old son access to the weapon investigators say was used to kill 4 people and injure 9 others at Apalachee High School in September of 2024. Colin Gray, he faces 29 charges, including second-degree murder and second-degree cruelty to children. The outcome of his bond hearing could determine whether he remains in custody while awaiting trial. The mass shooting at Apalachee High School occurred on September 4th, 2024. On that date, Colt Gray allegedly killed math teacher Christina Irami, coach, and he was also a teacher, Richard Aspinwall, 14-year-old Mason Shermanhorn, and 14-year-old Christian Angula. The students were identified as Christian Angula and Mason Shermanhorn, and the teachers were Christina Irami, 53, and Richard Aspinwall, 39. Investigators later found a notebook belonging to Colt Gray that contained drawings eerily matching the events of the school shooting, as well as a checklist outlining steps Colt planned to take. So those, again, please check out my prior video when I go over the preliminary hearing of Colt Gray. In a short way of me telling you, there's a lot of information, a lot of details, a lot of background information, things that we know now happened leading up to the mass shooting at Apalachee High School. We learn about the planning of Colt Gray. We learn about how many times Colt went to his dad, asked his dad, I need this tactical vest. Please buy this for me. I need this item. He called his outfit the mass shooter outfit. He said this out loud. He even allegedly went to his grandmother and said, will you still love me? Will you still care for me if I do something very bad? And grandma, she tried to get him help, but those resources, they had to come from and through his parents, taking responsibility, taking him to counseling, okay? So there's a lot there in that preliminary hearing in my last video regarding Colt Gray. A lot of information, details about how he really was fascinated, intrigued by mass shootings, by Pacific mass shooters, how he had a shrine in the game room where he primarily was. His writings were openly out in the game room. Please check out that video. I can't go over all of that again. It's about an hour, 45 minutes long, but it gives you the testimony at the preliminary hearing, okay? From those uh, G. Georgia Bureau of Investigator agents, they did an excellent job with their testimony, okay? So anyway, let's continue. Go back just a tiny bit. Investigators later found a notebook belonging to Colt Gray that contained drawings eerily matching the events of the school shooting, as well as a checklist outlining steps Colt planned to take. Again, Colt intentionally left that notebook in the classroom so that it would be recovered, it would be found, and they would discover his thoughts, his mindset, his plans, how he detailed, how he made drawings, he made writings depicting what he was going to do, how he did not want to start the shooting in the bathroom. I believe he learned that from the mass shooting at Oxford High School by Ethan Crumby. He didn't want to start the mass shooting in the high school, and he said it was because he did not want to warn people that there was a shooting prior to time, okay? He wanted to emerge from the bathroom and begin the shooting so he could harm, kill as many people as he could. And that's important. That goes to intention, that goes to planning, okay? Let's continue. They also found a shrine of sorts behind Colt's computer desk in his home, consisting of approximately 15 photographs and newspaper articles about past school shootings and school shooters. Again, what we learned from the preliminary hearing, visibly on the wall. Okay, this was the wall. It was visible for anybody to see. So I have pictures. I have a hidden horror sign. I have things out. Welcome to hidden horror. Hello. I have Polly sitting out there. I have pictures of my mom, me, and my sister. He didn't have that kind of space. He didn't have a welcoming space. He had pictures of mass shooters, allegedly. He had pictures of the number of people that were killed. Um, he highlighted certain shootings, Columbine, Parkland, Nicholas Cruz, etc. Okay, so this is visibly out for anybody that goes in that area to see. And what does Dad do? Dad asks him, "Hey, who is that in the picture?" Because he was idolizing. Goes to his thoughts, his mind, what he spent his time thinking about doing. This is how he planned the shooting, really. Essentially, he wanted to see it, to lay it out. He wanted to know how many people, he calculated, estimated how many people he would kill in the shooting. It's a lot to digest. Please check out the preliminary hearing of Colt Gray. Okay, please check that video out because I can't even go over it enough to detail it enough for you now. You just please check out that separate video. So let's continue an article. The GBI also learned from Colt's father, Colin Gray, that he had received unsettling text messages from both his daughter and ex-wife on the day of the shooting. After reading the text, Colin said he went home and turned on the news where he saw reports of the shooting at Colt School. Okay, I'm not going to let the article, I'm going to speak more truth to what the article is saying. Allegedly, the morning of the shooting, Colt, he texts both his parents. He texts his mom and he texts his dad. The text that his mom received was something like, "I'm sorry." He texts his dad multiple texts. He warned him, "Listen, when I text you later on, you have to read and respond. You have to respond to me." And the text messages that followed prior to the shooting were something like, and I'm going to paraphrase, but Basically, Dad, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't make any mistakes. You're not responsible for what I'm about to do. Because he really felt like, and I'm in the mindset of Colt Gray now. He felt like he manipulated his dad. His dad thought we're gaining a close relationship, we're gaining a bond. My dad, he taught me how to shoot, he took me hunting, he did these things. I learned these skills from my dad, and it's important to me that with my son, with Cole, I want him to have these skills. And this is how we can bond, we can come together, we can grow closer by having this bond with the hunting, with the shooting, with buying all of these things that he wanted to make him get closer. But that was not Colt's intent. That's why leading up to the shooting, we learned how Colt's anger, it grew. He was more hostile, more violent, pushing his mom, arguing with both his parents, his mom and his dad, being just more violent. And it leads up to his transformation. He's developing into the mass shooter. It's really, really, it's something that should be studied because you can see the transformation in Cole. You could also see the transformation in Ethan Crumbley, the Oxford High School mass shooter out of the state of Michigan. It's very similar, the age, starting, in middle school into high school, the isolation, the mindset, the thoughts, the drawings, the writings, um, wanting to exact this revenge, to hurt people, to harm people, wanting to get the weapon, a certain type of weapon, a high powered assault style type weapon, using the parents, to really carry out the mission of obtaining the weapon for the mass shooting. Clearly, in both instances, this is what happened. Now, more recent, because the Oxford High School mass shooting was in November of 2021. Now, of course, we know this mass shooting was in September of 24. But what's happening, these mass shooters are going back. They're looking at past mass shootings. They're learning the habits, the thoughts, the planning behind the mass shooting, how he had to have, certain items for the weapon, certain things he wanted to wear, the tactical vests. He wanted to have a mask for his face, for his head. You know, he wanted to have the gloves on. All this is like getting into character. It's a transformation. It is leading up to, first, you have the thoughts, you have the ideas, you have the research, you have posting the pictures, the news clippings of these mass shootings on the wall, right? But it goes another step. Now you have to get your parent to buy you this weapon, take you for target practice, um, do these things with you where they think you're bonding because these things make you happy. You're responding, you're acquiescing to their demands because you're getting what you want, which is you're building out the things you need for the mass shooting, right? So, all that's to say that a lot of times, and I'm going to go over, I've said this and I need to get back to this, but the Secret Service, they did research on mass shooters over a period of years, say a decade, and they have gleaned, they have been able to identify characteristics of the mass shootings, of the mass shooters. And we need to take that information, take that knowledge, cast it out. See, can we learn? Can we take some of these things that they have shown us that they've been able to calculate and report and identify as triggers, as warning signs, and be able to prevent, to stop, to reduce these mass shootings? Okay, so I am going to do video number 3 soon. I just have to get back to that, but all of this is to say that Colt Gray, unfortunately, this was his intention, as the other shooters as well, but particularly with him. He also used his relationship with his dad, and I believe Ethan Crumbley did as well with both his parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, to obtain the items that they both needed, Colt and Ethan, to do the mass shooting through their parents, okay? And this is why Colt Gray, as well as James and Jennifer Crumbley, were charged with levels of homicide, even though did they complete the mass shooting? Did they go to the school? Did they do the mass shooting? No. But they allowed things leading up to the mass shooting and the mass shooting to happen, to occur, to put that weapon in the child's hand, to make them not just have access, but unfettered. These are unlocked weapons, right? These where they can go and obtain them with the ammunition. And this is how we see these mass shootings occur, okay? So let's continue because I can go on and on. I really can. The GBI also learned from Colt's father, Colin Gray, that he had received unsettling text messages from both his daughter and ex-wife on the day of the shooting. After reading the text, Colin said he went home and turned on the news, where he saw reports of the shooting at Colt's school. Stop right here. When he got the messages, Colt sent his dad allegedly way more messages than his mom. When he got the messages, Colin Gray, dad, he left work. He drove home. I believe he drove home to see if Colt's gun was at home. This is the same thing that happened in the individual trials where you have James Crumbley and Jennifer Crumbley individually tried. These are Ethan Crumbley's parents. James Crumbley, when he got the alert from the school that there was a mass shooting, he went home and he searched for the gun that they purchased Ethan. What does Colt's dad, Colin Gray, do? Colin Gray, he doesn't call the school. He doesn't call the police. He's concerned enough to leave work. He goes home and he says that he turned on the news. But I'm going to believe that he looked for Colt's gun. He recalled that gun sitting out, as he described, in the corner of Colt's room for a week prior to the mass shooting. Please check out the preliminary hearing. That gun had sat in Colt's room the week of the mass shooting. It had prior to that been stored somewhere else. Okay? I think he went and he looked for that assault rifle. And when he saw it wasn't there, it finally registers. It clicked. His son, Colt, was a mass shooter at Apalachee High School, his high school. Okay? Let's continue. He told investigators that he went to Colt's room to look for the AR-15 style rifle he had given him, only to find it missing. Investigators testified that Colin Gray did not seem surprised when he was informed of the shooting and did not immediately express remorse after learning about the incident. They have testimony at Colin Gray's preliminary hearing that he was unaffected, not just remorse, a lack of remorse. They're saying that he did not express, did not show any signs of remorse, regret. And you have these 4 people deceased. You have more people injured, but 4 whose lives were stolen, were taken. 2 wonderful teachers. 2 amazing kids. He doesn't have any thoughts as he's looking back, flashing back on all of his encounters with his son, he doesn't have any remorse for these victims. And that's going to be very hard to overcome the human factor. I can recall watching the trial of Jennifer Crumbley, and it was almost as if she lacked any, it didn't seem like she had a heart. She was very cold and callous in her talking and her mannerisms. Um, James Crumbley, he was angry. Um, it's something to reflect back on these mass shootings, and when we take just a small peek into the lives of these mass shooters, their family members, their parents, we just see this lack of love, lack of care, lack of concern. They just don't have it. They don't have the humanity, the decency. I don't want to call it morality, but there's something missing in these people. Um, if you've seen enough of these cases, you've watched enough of these cases, you see this dark, just devoid of feelings in these people. Let's continue. Let's continue. It's pretty sad. But they're saying that he lacked emotion, he lacked remorse, regret, empathy, sympathy. Okay, let's continue. In a filing date dated Sunday, Colin Gray's attorney argued that the widespread publicity of the case and the passionate response it invokes should be the reason for the trial being moved. The reference to charges pending against the defendant and to the defendant's background has been placed before the prospective jurors in this case, information which is incompetent as evidence and has severely prejudiced prospective jurors against the defendant. The motion reads, prosecutors have yet to respond to the motion. It is not clear if the judge will grant the request. Fox 5 Atlanta reached out to longtime criminal defense attorney Joshua Schiffer for his opinion on whether Gray's venue change request will be granted. Colin Gray's trial is going to be nationally followed. This is a novel issue in Georgia because for the first time ever, a parent is being charged for the actions of their child in a school shooting, Joshua Schiffer said. Well, we all know that the Crumbleys, Ethan Crumbley, along with his parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, was the first trial in the United States where parents were charged for the actions of their child, right? For neglect, okay? Schiffer believes there's a high likelihood the request will be approved. He says the judge will then need to consider a number of things before a new location is selected. It's farcical to think that the locals don't understand and don't follow this case. This case is the kind that impacts every single family in the community. Finding an impartial jury might be really challenging, if not impossible, according to Schiffer. The courts have a number of things to consider. Most importantly, it needs to be transferred to a community that's similar to the community where the crime allegedly occurred. Change of venues are uncommon in Georgia. One of the most notable examples happened in 2016 when a judge moved the Ross Harris hot car death trial hundreds of miles away from Cobb County, Brunswick. Change in venue may seem like an expensive investment, but when you think about the cost of unnecessary appeals, this is actually a cost savings for the integrity of the justice system, said Schiffer. The judge assigned to the case will need to schedule a hearing for the motion. A trial date has not been scheduled for Gray. Okay, well, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Colin Gray requesting a change of venue. If you have any other thoughts about the case, please comment and just let me know, how are you guys doing? How are you feeling? How is your family? How are you doing during these challenging times? Okay. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I want you to stay smart, stay safe, stay savvy, and be well, all my friends. See you soon, everybody. Bye.